Members of the Budget and Finance Committee present today, so thank you all so much. We do have one person signed up for our public comment. We have Mr. Antonio Carroll from NES who will be speaking to us. As many of you all may have seen, there was an article that came out today with some concerns about a particular NES contract. Due to the Open Meetings Act, we were not able to add that to today's agenda because there was not enough time for that to be publicly noticed. But NES was gracious enough to come and address us during our public comment period. So with that in mind, the same way that we would do public comment any other time, we are not going to address questions to the presenter of the public comments. However, I encourage my colleagues that if you have any questions that come up from today's presentation or questions in general about this, I'm going to ask you to please email Director Darby, and she is going to compile those questions and send them over to NES so that they can be answered. We will also publish all of those questions and answers on our Budget and Finance SharePoint page, and I will encourage you all to share that out with your constituencies, your newsletters, and through social media. Definitely want to be as transparent as possible through this process, so we want to make sure that people have access to this information. Also, there was a robust conversation earlier today in the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, chaired by Chair Parker. So I also encourage you all to go back and review that footage if you are so inclined. And with that, I'm going to recognize Mr. Antonio Carroll with NES at the back podium.
Good evening, members of council. Thank you for allowing me to address you tonight. I want to thank all you all for your kind words for our crews and for the work they did after our tornado. You all had fabulous words to say to them, and we passed it on to them for the fabulous job that they've done in restoring power to everyone. We're here tonight in a spirit of collaboration and cooperation with the Metro Council because we know we all want a lighting system for our city that shines a light everywhere so we can have one of the greatest lighting systems in the country. And so, you know, all the street lights are owned and maintained by Nashville Electric Service. As such, these lighting upgrades are furnished by NES and its capital budgets through electric revenues and bonds, which you all approved last time at the last council meeting. We have a robust procurement process. And so we follow the procurement rules according to that process that are mandated by the Electric Power Board as well as the laws of the state of Tennessee. However, the law of the state of Tennessee provides exemptions for bidding out a project when it's a professional service contract. You know, price is an important factor when you're looking at a project of this magnitude when determining a streetlight vendor, but quality is just as important. When you, cheap is not always the best, and so that's something that we looked at when we decided to go have an exemption to the procurement process here. So we chose PATH as our vendor here because PATH has a proven track record in installing system lighting for the NES system. They've installed lighting in several of our satellite cities, and they've done a great job, a good track record with providing quality service for those installations, and we decided to use them as the vendor for installing the lights in the city of Nashville and Davidson County. Now, I want to address a little bit of the article that you all read. There was a lot of misleading information in that article, and so I want to just talk about some of those comparisons between Nashville's project as well as Memphis's project. One of the first things is that the article alludes that the city of Memphis never bid out the project. That's not really true. The article address said that Memphis bid out the project. That's not really true. Memphis did not bid out their project. They used the same professional procurement method to competitively select their partner, Amoresco. Memphis did not issue an RFQ where they looked at qualifications of 11 vendors. And this process, it varies differently from an RFP process. They didn't consider price in that. And as such, there was a process that took 12 to 18 months. For those who were on council last term, you know that NES and NDOT worked over 2 years in looking at how to develop a streetlight contract. And time was of the essence. And so as part of that, we could not afford to have that time frame extended further. The second piece of that is it talked about the difference in pricing. So when you look at a contract that occurred 12 to 18 months before NES started that contract, you all know that inflation continues to go up. And as part of that, when you look at the pricing difference between the Memphis contract and the National Electric Service contract with PATH, there's a difference because materials are more. As we all know, we all have been experienced and been hit by mass inflation. If you want a better comparison, I would challenge you to go look at the city of Philadelphia, who actually used the same vendor that Memphis used, and you would see that price point. It's very, very similar. You know, I got an earlier question about whether NES will be using, or PATH will be using a union workforce to install those lights. And I just want to clarify that PATH confirmed that they have already and confirmed that they will be using IBEW Local 429 with the workforce to complete that work, and they'll be using Hyde Wheat Lake for the majority of the work, and they are a part of NECA. So yes, union workforce will be doing the installation work here. The bottom line, and I hope that you all get from this, is that NES wants a lighting system that we can all be proud of. And we want to use a vendor that's going to give us the quality and results to accomplish that task. And we look forward to the questions that you have and working with you as a partner through this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. And again, colleagues, if you have any questions, please make sure to send those to Director Darby. She will send those to NES, and we will get them answered and published as well for the sake of transparency for our viewing audience. So with that, we will go ahead and move forward. I do have a few brief announcements prior to jumping into this. As you all know, once we return, we will be into January, and our budget season will be fastly approaching. So we are working with our vice mayor as well as our director and working with finance to look at our calendar for the upcoming budget season. So we will make sure to have as much of that information readily available for you all upon your return in July. I'm also currently considering some subcommittees and work groups based on some areas of interest within our budget and finance under the purview of our committee. So we'll also have some more information about that when we return in January as well. But I just wanted to kind of keep you all abreast of some of the things that we were working on. So with that, we're going to go ahead and go into our consent agenda. If you have any items that you would like to remove from the consent agenda, please let me know. Currently, our consent agenda consists of RS 2023-132, RS 2023-136, RS 2023-137, RS 2023-138, RS 2023-139, RS 2023-140, RS 2023-141, RS 2023-142, RS 2023-143, RS 2023-147, RS 2023-148, RS 2023-149, RS 2023-150, RS BL 2023-124. Prior to me reading the captions on those items, is there anything that anyone would like to have pulled from the consent agenda? Councilmember Gamble, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. If you will pull RS 2023-132.
RS 2023-132 is pulled from the consent agenda. Are there any other items that anyone would like pulled from consent? All right, I will go ahead and read those captions. RS 2023-136 Porterfield authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the claims of the Nashville Rescue Mission, Aaron Tolbert, Province Builders, Progressive Development, DY Construction, KP2 LLC, and New Day Homes LLC against the Metropolitan Government in the amount of $213,966.13 to be paid out of the NDOT Sidewalk Fund. RS 2023-137, Gab Porterfield Styles, amends Resolution RS 2023-78 to correct a typographical error concerning the name of the grantor of an in-kind grant. RS 2023-138, Styles Porterfield Welsh accepts an in-kind grant from the Josie Davis Foundation and the Friends of Mill Ridge Park to the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation for the fabrication and installation of 2 signs, one at Mill Ridge Park and one at the Moore Farm at Mill Ridge Park. RS 2023-139, Ewing, Porterfield, Styles, and others, accepts an in-kind grant from the West Nashville Sports League to the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to provide funding for a new HVAC system in the maintenance building located in the sports complex area of Edwin Warner Park. RS 2023-140, Porterfield, Styles, Welsh, accepts an in-kind grant from the Dalton family to the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation for a bench with a plaque honoring their parents to be placed on the west end of the walking loop at Palmer Park. RS 2023-141, Porterfield, approves a contract between the Metropolitan Government and R.J. Young Company, LLC, to provide multi-function devices, copiers, printers, related devices, and services for Metro General Services Department. RS 2023-142, Porterfield, accepts the terms of a cooperative purchasing master agreement for mailing equipment, supplies, and maintenance services for the General Services Department. RS 2023-143, Porterfield, Evans, Bradford, and others, accepts a grant from the Friends of Metro Animal Care and Control to the Metropolitan Board of Health to provide funding for emergency medical care for shelter animals and the pet pantry, a component of the Safety Net program. RS 2023-147, Porterfield, Evans, accepts the Edwin Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant from the Office of Justice Programs to the Metropolitan Police Department for specialized training and equipment to ensure personnel maintain needed certifications for criminal investigation and crime reduction initiatives. RS 2023-148, Porterfield, Parker, Welsh, and others, approves an application for a carbon reduction program grant from the Tennessee Department of Transportation to NDOT for a project, Connect Downtown, adaptive signal system that will improve mobility and address traffic congestion in the downtown core. RS 2023-149, Ellis Porterfield Parker, accepts a donation from VFV Partners LLC in the amount of $50,000 as a contribution towards infrastructure improvements in the vicinity of 2760 Murfreesboro Pike. RS 2023-150, Coupon Porterfield Parker, accepts a donation from Albion Residential in the amount of $15,000 as a contribution towards the cost of an analysis conducted by NDOT for roadway infrastructure improvements associated with the Pie Town Mobility Study. And BL 2023-124, Parker, Porterfield, Gamble, authorizes the Metropolitan Government to abandon existing brick water pumping station building located at 2124 Oakwood Avenue, but to retain the public utility and drainage easement. Proposal number 2023M-160ES-001. Is there anything else that anyone would like to have bumped from the consent agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? The consent agenda passes, 15 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. All right, moving on to the rest of the agenda. RS 2023-132, Huffman, Vogt, Porterfield, and others, authorizes the Department of Water and Sewage Services to transfer control of 2 parcels of property to the Metropolitan Government. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded, and this is now open for discussion. Councilmember Huffman, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to speak very briefly on this particular resolution. It's a land transfer for a property in my district. It's roughly about 2.7 acres. This is going to be eventually a very nice affordable housing project going to create some housing opportunities for those that are in need in a very good middle-class neighborhood with that's definitely up and coming. I'd welcome any questions on it. I know we've got representatives from Water and MDHA here as well, if anybody has any specific questions.
Thank you, council member. Are there any other questions? Councilmember Gamble, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I pulled this off consent just to highlight that this property, according to the analysis, there are two properties, one valued at $1,050,000, the other valued at $770,000. And this is a great contribution, I will say, from the Metro Water Department to provide for affordable housing. So we discussed this briefly in planning, and it was passed there, and I support it and expect it to pass here, but just pulled it off consent just to highlight or bring that forward, that the value of the property that is being turned over, control as an in-kind payment to the city, and just wanted to verify that as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Gamble. Do we have any other questions, comments, or concerns? All hearts and minds clear? All those in favor, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 15 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. RS 2023-133, Weiner and Allen, amends ordinance number BL 2023-1690 as amended to provide a stormwater capacity fee appeal process and to amend the applicability of the new section 15-64-035 of the Metropolitan Code. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Would the sponsor like to speak on this legislation? Councilwoman Weiner, you are recognized.
Thank you so much, Chair. I'm going to share some specifics with you, some definitions, some timelines, and some clarity about this because I know there have been some questions about it. So I'm going to try to boil it down so that we all understand what's happening here because we inherited this from the last council. Some definitions that I think will be helpful. Combined sewer area. What that means is where the water and the sewer share the same pipes. It exists in the urban services district and downtown, not out in the general services district. Also, the combined sewer area does not have the capacity to manage direct stormwater connections. So, combined sewer area. Number 2, MS4 that you've seen in the bill or in the resolution, that is in the GSD, and that is where there are no combined sewer and water areas in that area and no direct impact to what goes on downtown. Number 3, legal nexus. For those of us that are not attorneys, like me, I had to look it up and figure it out. Well, as it applies to water and sewer, let me explain what that references. Because there are no combined water and sewer areas in the GSD, the residential developers in that area of single, two-family, and infill development said, that doesn't apply to me. So the legal nexus is because they don't have the combined water and sewer in the MS4 or in the GSD, those folks say it should not apply to them. Think back to some other legislation that's been overturned, found unconstitutional, we're having to pay people back. We don't want to go there. So Metro Legal advised back about 2019, 2018, that this needed to be fixed so we didn't have that future problem. What I want to do now is share what this resolution does, and then I'll give you some brief history, and then I'll sit down and y'all can go about it. It amends the applicability of the stormwater capacity, the fee, to exclude residential single-family, two-family, and infill in the MS4, not downtown. So we're not going to take the downtown out because that's where your combined water and sewer is. The second thing that it does is it outlines procedures if somebody, a developer, wants to appeal not the capacity fee, but it wants to appeal the area that is going to be, that is going to have that fee applied to it. So two things and two things only. A brief timeline. Development projects were causing issues in the combined sewer areas, and a solution was needed because it was impacting the ability of the system to operate efficiently. And it was going to cost about $35 million to get it fixed. Where were we going to find the money? So this was the capacity fee that the council passed last term. In 2017, Metro Water started evaluating the projects and they wanted to see what these projects' impact was going to be on the system capacity and the operation. So then they started with a project design. Around 2018, they started having meetings. This is how far back this goes. 2018, they started having meetings with Metro Legal, Metro Water, the area developers, and their attorneys to come up with a process, a design, and guidelines. Back in 2019, they finally reached agreement. In the first quarter of 2023, they came up with policy guidelines. At the end of the second quarter of 2023, the master plan was complete, and that's when the residential developers and their attorneys came and said, if you don't take us out, there's probably going to be a lawsuit because this should not apply to us because there's no legal nexus, i.e., there's no combined water and sewer in that area. So at the end of last council, this was deferred and amended twice. It is now kicked to us, and all we need to do is file this resolution, and the capacity fee is handled. We don't have to worry about any legal and intended consequences. I would appreciate your support. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Weiner. Councilmember Johnson, you are recognized, and then we're going to recognize Councilmember Toombs, Vice Chair Toombs, and also Councilmember Johnson, if I can real quick before you speak, we do have Jim Snyder with Metro Water that can speak to this legislation, as well as Amanda Deaton-Moyer from the Finance Department of Water, who may also be able to speak to the fiscal implications of this legislation. And with that, Councilmember Johnston, you are recognized.
Thank you. Can we get a map of where this does apply? We heard a lot of it doesn't include this, it doesn't include that, but I think it'd be helpful each of our districts are going to be impacted to have a map showing exactly where it does apply. Do we have that, or is that?
Mr. Snyder, you are recognized.
Jim Snyder, Metro Water. Council member, we can get that map for you. But if I can describe it, I think if you think about the centroid of the city, that's your combined sewer system. The MS4 is outside, everything outside of that centroid, your urban, suburban areas. And I know there are also some infill areas, Councilman Druphold, that would be included in this fee. That, and as Councilmember Weiner said, a nexus, a place to tie to. But we can get that map, but that's the description of what we're talking about.
I think a map would be helpful for all of us. And do we know specifically, can we guess, not guess, but like, for example, I know that my district, which will be impacted by this, I'm assuming, because we're out in the Creve Hall, Caldwell Abbey, Berry Hill, about what we think it's going to cost everyone extra each month? Is
Okay,
like,
so
like a household, and I know that's hard to do because everybody has different usage and all that, but just in general, is there a?
okay, so this is not applying to our ratepayers. This is if you're going to develop property.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So
New development.
Essentially that process is, so if you're going to develop property, you submit plans to our development review folks. Those plans come in with what we call impervious area, where we'll not accept the water. That's measured. That rate per square foot is applied, and the developer pays for it. So this is not for all of our ratepayers. This is just for if you're going to develop property.
Okay.
And if you're a homeowner and you're going to develop put a driveway in, it excludes anything under 800 square feet. So, but it's driven by It's driven by development, if you will.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember
Still want the
Johnston.
map.
Oh, well, if I may, that map does exist. All right, that map exists on our website, Clean Water Nashville. Maybe what we can do is provide a link to to the council resource link that you currently have.
Perfect. Or you can send an email or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
We're
easier
gonna
for
have
me to get an email.
We'll have to get smarter people than me to make that happen, but
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnston, and thank you, Mr. Snyder. Vice Chair Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So when we implemented the stormwater capacity fee, my understanding was that the purpose of the fee was for developers to pay for their impact on our stormwater infrastructure. So are we saying that outside of the suburban, urban areas, that there is not that concern that developers pay for their impact to the system?
Mr. Snyder, you're recognized.
Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit into the detail. So Councilmember Weiner mentioned the legal risk, if you will. So the argument is if you're in, at least what developers would argue, if you're in that suburban rural area, there's not a nexus, a place to tie into. But that became the risk, and we saw that on the sidewalk side. But if you're in the combined system, there are pipes there. If you're in an infill situation, typically there's pipes there, something that you can tie into. And so that's where the folks that are developing in those areas would be required to pay. I can also tell you, just in general, the fees that are collected, about 95% of those fees will be collected in the combined system. Just a small percentage in that GS4. It's even a smaller percentage if you're outside the infill in that GS4.
So the folks outside of the suburban, urban areas aren't connecting to anything?
And once again, this is if you're developing property. This is just not,
right.
I'm a homeowner, I gotta pay something, no.
Right.
That you're already paying.
If I'm
stormwater fees for
developing
that.
outside of those suburban, urban areas, there's not a system that I'm connecting into.
Right.
Okay.
So what'll happen is they'll submit a plan, our development review people will say, there's not a system there, and so that doesn't apply to you.
Okay.
But that avoids financial risk. That avoids legal risk.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Toombs. Do we have any other questions? One question, Mr. Snyder, what is the fiscal impact of this legislation? Do you happen to have that information?
So,
Or anyone from your team?
yeah, so if you read in the legislation, we predicted $35 million a year based on development. But if you pull out that small portion, that will eliminate about 2 or 3% of that total money.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we got it on the record for the viewing audience. So thank you so much for that. Are there any additional questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 15 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. RS 2023-134, Porterville Parker authorizes the Metropolitan Government to enter into an agreement with the Harpeth Valley Utilities District of Davidson and Williamson Counties, Tennessee, HVUD, for reading of water consumption meters, billing of Metro sewer customers. Can I get a motion? It has been moved and properly seconded. Do we have any questions on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any not voting? Motion carries 15 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. RS 2023-135, Porterfield Welsh authorizes the Metropolitan Department of Law to compromise and settle the Americans with Disabilities Act claim of Jane Doe against the Metropolitan government by adopting an accommodation policy for board and commission members and paying $500 to Ms. Doe out of the Judgment and Losses Fund. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Do we have any questions? Councilmember Spain, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know legal sent out a memo on this one earlier this evening as we were getting ready to go into transportation, but could we just get kind of a brief summary of what was included in that memo?
Thank you, Councilmember Spain. Do we have someone? Okay, we have someone that will speak to that. Just kidding. All right, Ms. Amos, you're recognized.
So our office was involved in a settlement regarding a member of a commission who had a disability, and we didn't really know really what to do with it. So her accommodation request was not really consistent with the Open Meetings Act. We reached out to the state, didn't get a lot of guidance. We came up with a solution that was not acceptable to the individual. They filed a complaint with the DOJ. We've come up with a solution, and it involves us making accommodations for members of the public who are disabled under the ADA and want to participate in a public meeting or be on a board or commission. And so maybe in this instance, they can't make all of the board or commission meetings because of their disability. This would allow them to participate virtually or remotely from their home if their disability doesn't allow them to come to the Metro building where the meeting is.
Councilmember Spain, okay, no additional questions. Councilmember Evans, you are recognized.
I've only read one of the documents that was sent to us, and so this answer may be in the second one. If it is, go ahead and tell me that, and I'll read it. I guess when I initially read the analysis detail, one question that stood out to me was, how would a board or commission member need to notify Metro that they need accommodation? Would that go through the person who is nominating them to go through some kind of process, or has that been communicated?
So you mean like before they're actually confirmed? I think there is a question on the nominating information that talks about whether or not they have a disability. So that they could, bring it up then, or if after they're confirmed, whatever department that they're assigned to, that's who we can work with to make sure that they're accommodated appropriately.
Okay, and then, thank you. And then if something changes during the course of their term, they would just go to that department to be able to let them know?
That's
Okay,
correct.
Thank you.
If they no longer needed the accommodation or something like that.
Thank you, Councilmember Evans. Do we have any additional questions? And this, I have a question for legal, based on that last question. Would it be prudent for us to ask individuals who want to disclose if they need accommodations? Would it be better for them to disclose that after they have been voted into a position, so that there's no, if a person is voted down for whatever reason, we don't want there to be any appearance that their ability level had any impact on the nature of the vote. So would it make more sense for us to look into that after the vote?
Yeah, I think that's like a policy decision that you all can make. I could see both sides. It would be nice to know up front if someone's going to need accommodations, but we're going to accommodate them no matter what.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay? Just kidding. Okay, any abstentions? Motion carries 14 in favor, 0 against, and 0 abstaining. Yeah, we lost one. All right, next item on our agenda, RS 2023-144, Porterfield, Evans, Bradford, and others, approves amendments 3 and 4 to a grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to the Metropolitan Board of Health to provide for the prevention, surveillance, diagnosis, and treatment of HIV/AIDS, and to administer a minority AIDS initiative program. Can I get a motion? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Allen, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can we just get an explanation from somebody about, I mean, this amount went from 811,000 to 4.6 million and then up to 5.3 million. And it just seems like there's a lot of money being shifted from year to year. And maybe it's because it came through as part of something and they just haven't had time to get organized. But if we could get a little bit of an explanation about the timing on this and why the money's being shifted.
All right, thank you so very much, Councilmember Allen. We do have someone approaching from the Health Department. If you could introduce yourself, you are recognized.
Thank you, Councilwoman. My name is Cabera Leach with the Health Department. So this money is being rolled over from one year to the next because the organizations that the Health Department partners with received a lot of COVID funding over the last previous years. And unlike the Ryan White grant, this COVID funding does not require as much reporting as that grant does. So many of them have opted not to accept that funding because they felt that they could deliver services more expediently with the COVID funds than with the Ryan White funds. So it was for that reason why we have to roll over this money. They simply weren't taking it. However, there are plans in this coming year for that money to be spent down. We've been in contact with these partners and having them put in proposals as to how they're going to spend this money, so that hopefully next year this will not have to roll over again. But as we're shifting out of a lot of that tsunami of COVID funding that a lot of organizations were getting, we'll be back to spending this Ryan White money, or the organizations will be, rather.
Thank you. No additional questions, Councilmember Allen? All right, thank you. Do we have any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 14 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Next, we have RS 2023-145, Porterfield, Evans, Bradford, and others. Approve amendments 4, 5, and 6 to a grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to the Metropolitan Board of Health to provide for the prevention, surveillance, diagnosis, and treatment of HIV/AIDS and to administer minority AIDS initiative programs. Can I get a motion? It has been moved and properly seconded. Do we have any questions? All right, I'll take the bait. Can you explain to us how this is different from, what's different from the piece of legislation that we just voted on?
Well, hopefully I can give you an adequate answer on that, or if not, I can follow back up on you. I think that it's taking each year individually, but rather than giving you an incomplete answer, would it be possible for me to send a follow-up email to your office or the committee answering that question?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
All right, thank you.
No worries. Do we have any other questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Anyone not voting? 14 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And if you could, when you send that information, if you could send it to Director Darby to be dispersed through for the rest of our Budget and Finance Committee. Our next meeting is January the 16th. And if we could have that information prior to our next vote, it'll be helpful. Oh, just kidding. Can you have that by tomorrow? My apologies.
I should be able to.
Okay, thank you. All right, RS 2023-146, Porterfield Evans approves a Homeland Security Grant Program application from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Metropolitan Office of Emergency Management to fund costs related to enhancing efforts to build, sustain, and deliver the capabilities necessary to prevent, prepare for, protect against, and respond to acts of terrorism. Can I get a motion?
Approval.
Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay. I had a couple of questions on this. I will actually hold my questions for public health and safety. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Anyone not voting? Chair is not voting on this legislation. Motion passes 13 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting. We do have a late file resolution, Evans, Hancock, Gamble, and others, authorizes the waiver of certain permit fees for the repair or rebuilding of property damaged as a result of the December 9th, 2023 tornado. Can I get a motion?
Move approval.
Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Do we have any questions, any comments, concerns? Councilmember Spain, you recognize.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there a length of time that this change applies to? Does it expire at a given time, or do we have to take action to undo it at some point?
I'll answer that based on this, but Councilmember Evans, you want to, I'll defer to the sponsor. Councilwoman Evans, you're recognized.
For June of next year. And what happened last term after the tornado is we did extend when we got close to that time period.
Thank you, Councilmember Evans. And specifically June 30th, so end of June as opposed to June 1. Do we have any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Motion carries 14 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. Bills on second reading, Bill 2023-121 Toombs increases the amounts of the official bonds for the public administrator and public trustee. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? Is there a second? It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Chair is abstaining on this one. 13 in favor, 0 against, and 1 not voting. It looks like that's the end of our agenda, y'all. With that, thank y'all so much. Meeting adjourned. And don't forget, we have a joint